Good afternoon, everyone. Justine here from Nutrition for Weight Loss Surgery. Sally and I are coming to you live this afternoon, so don't scroll past. We want to do a quick protein top-up masterclass. We're going to be giving away our protein top-up list in the caption below, or in the comments rather. So if you would like to grab your protein top-up list, be sure to do so. So we're just waiting for Sally to join. I can see she's watching. I am hoping that she can join us and then we can get started. So just be patient while we get the technology sorted. So why do we talk protein top-ups? So many people will say to me, Justine, why do I need to use food-based top-ups when I could just use protein powder? And there's a couple of reasons for it. Number one, not every food or meal lends itself to protein powder. I'm just going to get Sally to join and I'll continue on that topic. So if we think about a meal like a lovely piece of fish and some vegetables, we're not going to, oh, hello Sally.
It's finally worked for us.
It worked. So I'm just explaining why we use protein top-ups. So if we're having fish and veggies, we're not going to sprinkle protein powder on that meal. It just doesn't lend itself to it. So there comes a point where we need to top up our protein, but protein powder is not the answer. So with that meal of, say, fish and vegetables, we might use something like some tzatziki or some hummus to add a bit of moisture and an awesome protein boost. Another reason for protein top-ups, we can't have endless amounts of protein powder. We like to put a bit of a cap of 30 grams a day of supplemented protein. So we're really looking at getting our nutrients from a wide range of sources. Ultimately, we're trying to move you away from too much protein powder and really get the bulk of your protein coming from whole, real foods. So in steps are our protein top-ups. So, Sal, do you want to explain why after surgery kind of meeting those minimum protein targets can be so difficult?
Yeah, we know that it can be so challenging for people to meet their protein targets because, well, the first thing is we're eating so much less food, particularly in those early post-op stages when portion sizes may be as small as, you know, a quarter of a cup in those early days. They can be really small, and you certainly can't fit 100-gram steak into that tiny little portion to get your 20 grams of protein. That just doesn't work. The other thing that we know that continues long term, and it starts in the early days, but it can continue long term for some people, is things like meat or chicken, or for some people even fish. They can sit really heavily and they can just be uncomfortable. They're just not a comfortable feeling in the stomach or the pouch or sleeve. And so people tend to shy away from them, or they might think, well, I tried that in my early days, it didn't sit well for me, I'm not going to have it anymore. And that's a common one we see. People will say, oh no, I can't tolerate meat. I tried that 2 months post-op and it didn't work for me, and so then they leave it. And I think that mindset grows around, I can't eat meat, I can't eat chicken, and over time people's protein sources disappear. The other reason, so there's the small portions, there's the tolerance, there's also the fact that when eating small portions, getting 60 to 80 grams of protein in a day is a lot of food when you're really limited to small portions, isn't it?
I use the example of eggs, and you know, if we're looking at getting 60 grams of protein from eggs, that's 10 eggs a day. Nobody wants to eat 10 eggs a day. So I think protein top-ups, another advantage they give us, you know, protein powders absolutely still play a role, but when we're looking at food-based top-ups, they add taste and texture to our meals as well. So they actually, we're not relying on just one protein source to meet those needs. We've got different layers of protein. And over in our Elevate group earlier today, somebody was showing me that made some beautiful veggie cheese fritters, and they'd actually put a little bit of ricotta on that as moisture, the protein top up. And so they had multiple sources of protein in that one little fritter. So it made a achieving that minimum target a lot easier for that person. And she's only 5 weeks post-op, so she's using her advantage.
Yeah, and I think it's the layering of those proteins, which is why we talk about protein top-ups. It's the layering that's so important, to add those small amounts, not only in the one meal, but throughout the day as well, so that every little bit can add up to make a big difference over the course of the day.
Yeah, well, my lunch today, I had some pulled chicken as a salad plate, and I put a big dollop of tzatziki with that, and that gave me an extra 5 grams of protein with my lunch. Now, that doesn't make a big, sound like it makes a big difference, but if every time I ate through the day I could get an extra 5 grams, that adds up to hitting that minimum 60 grams. So not underestimating the power of those little bits we can weave in to our eating. So over time we become less reliant on powders, and we're covering those needs with really tasty and
absolutely. And I think that's why on our protein snacks and top-ups list, we've got several sections. We've broken down our top-ups into 5 grams, 10 grams and 15 grams of protein. So for some people it might be adding in the things like the nuts or the hummus or some yogurt based dressing or something like that to get that 5 gram boost. For people who need a little bit more, we've got the 10 and the 15 gram boosts as well, so that there's different ways you can add the protein through the day, but also different amounts you can add, and it gives you a really clear picture of what you need to be adding through the day to make sure that you're getting that minimum protein requirement across the day.
Yeah, and I think it's never been afraid to use more than one top-up either. So I might, use 7 different sources of protein in a stir fry, for example, or if we use the example of egg, after weight loss surgery, it's going to be quite a struggle to eat multiple eggs in one meal. You may be able to eat a egg with some grated cheese and maybe a little bit of cottage cheese mixed into like a scramble, and then put that grated cheese on top. So we're not relying on that one heavier source.
Another really good example would be breakfast. So people look at muesli and think, well, it's a high carb food. It's not necessarily a high protein food. But if you think about, I'm thinking of 3 potential top-ups we could blend together to add to that muesli. So you could add half a cup of yogurt. You could stir through that yogurt, if you don't mind a peanutty flavour, some PB2, the powdered peanut butter, and you could have that on top of your muesli, and then you could add a sprinkle of seeds. So that adds that 3rd layer. So there's 3 different levels of protein top-ups going on there to really boost something that we traditionally wouldn't think of as a higher protein meal.
Yeah, and I think where some people get really reluctant to do that is it screams, I'm going to be adding more calories to my breakfast. And that can be really fearful if we've got a long history of dieting and controlling calories. We're going, wow, we're adding nuts and nut paste and yogurt. But the benefit actually comes later, because we're so satisfied by that meal, because it's been really rich in protein, really rich in healthy fats and fibre. So we're sustained, and we're actually likely to need to have incidental snacking or those other meal sizes later in the day remain controlled. So ultimately, we'll find we have less calories across the day. We really focus on the nutrition of each meal.
Yeah, I think that makes a really good point. And it's really making those meals more nutritionally sound and making them more satisfying. Well, so what are some of your favourite, or what's pick from our list one of your favourite top-ups?
Well, do you know, I prepared early. I got PB2. Okay, so yeah, I really like, and Sally mentioned this before, as something you can add to breakfast cereal. So it's powdered peanut butter. So it does have less fat and calories than traditional peanut butter, and it's really great because you can use it quite easily. So I'll add it in smoothies just to boost that protein up. 2 tablespoons will give you about 6 grams of protein. So it's the same as I made some little kind of cheesecake stuffed strawberries yesterday, where I blended some PB2 with a little bit of sugar-free maple syrup, some low-fat cream cheese, and mixed that together and some strawberries. That was a delicious snack. Tasted like I was kind of having dessert for afternoon tea. It's really good in overnight oats or even sprinkled on the forest.
Yeah.
it's really, it lasts really well. I quite an easy way to top up my protein, and I like a nut flavour, so it works well.
Perfect. Well, funnily enough, I've got something I prepared earlier as well. I've got
not like us.
I know. I've got nutritional yeast flakes, which are one of the other top-ups that we're talking about. And I was checking earlier, so this talks about a 15-gram serving, and I measured this out the other day, and it's like a really small bowl. Like I've got a pretty small hand, and it was about a little bowl size of my palm. Adds about 7 grams of protein. Now, that is not something that you can actually eat on its own. It looks a little bit like fish flakes in a bowl, so it's certainly not something you pour a bowl of and eat, but you can use it in your cooking, and every little boost in your cooking helps along the way. So it can be added to things like casseroles, curries, soups to add a cheesy type flavour. So even sprinkled on the top and just mixed in like you would perhaps a Parmesan cheese, you can use it in that sort of way. It can be mixed into scrambled eggs to add that cheesy flavour, and I would still also add a little bit of cheese on top as well, but this is just giving that extra boost and extra flavour. You could sprinkle, actually you could use it as a thickener in your casseroles and stews and things, but also you could sprinkle it over things like popcorn because it adds that extra cheesiness, a bit like a cheese chip, I guess, but cheesy popcorn. Sprinkle over pasta like you would, like I said, Parmesan, over salads, or even just some steamed veggies. If you think about, I'm going to make some cauliflower with cheesy sauce tonight, and I'll actually put a little bit in that just to add that real bite of cheesy flavour. So that's another good way to do it, and you can just sneak it in, and it doesn't matter that it's boosting the protein for everyone in the family. It can still be served up for everyone.
Even putting it in something like a veggie fritter salad works really well too. So anywhere you can use cheese. Now, we don't want to use endless amounts of these. So I don't want to see people having, you know, a cupful of PB2 a day, or, you know, piles of nutritional yeast. It's just about looking at all the different options available to keep your diet really varied and interesting, and trying different ways to meet those protein needs. And that's why we developed that resource that we're giving away at the moment, which gives you those 5, 10 and 15 gram category top-up. So you've got lots of choices you can select from. In the protein top-up list, we've also given you my favourite yogurt-based recipe. So
there's 5
dressings. So I love using yogurt as a salad dressing. So you can blitz all sorts of things with a Greek-style yogurt and pour that over salads, and you get that really indulgent, creamy kind of dressing. But you're also getting that protein. So we've included 5 recipes and protein ball recipes in that download.
There's 5 yogurt-based dressing recipes and 2 protein ball recipes. So we'll pop the link for the protein top-ups and snack list, including the 5 yogurt-based dressing recipes and the protein ball recipes, in the comments below, and you can absolutely download that. And when you do and try out some of the top-ups, just head back onto this post and let us know ideas for using some of the top-ups. Pop any photos of things that you've tried, because we'd actually really like to see how people implement this. So don't be shy and make sure you come back and let us know how it goes.
We'd really love that. So thank you so much for everybody for watching. Grab the list via those comments, the link in the comment, and let us know how you go. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Thanks for joining. Bye.